Public Network.
Good evening and welcome to the Southwest Vermont Supervisors Union Board of Directors meeting. And we will start right off with the public comments. Is there any public comments from anyone? Seeing none, then we'll go right into the presentation of the early childhood education. Karen Burnell.
I'm going to sit if that's okay with people. Is that okay with you, Cindy, or would you rather I stand over there?
No, you can. It's okay.
And I just want to reintroduce, this is Carol Egan, who's sitting near the computer. She's the Associate Director. And we have one of our teachers in the audience, Sherry Barber's in the audience too. I just want to, before I start, I just want to thank, can I have a little light so I can see my notes? Thanks. Thanks, Mike. I just want to thank Carol. When we were enrolling our students in pre-K, Carol started July 1. We didn't have an administrative assistant and we hit the ground running. And this presentation is about just the public pre-K portion of the work that we do. It does not include the children with disabilities or the children who are at risk. So it's, and 3 years old. So it's just the public pre-K piece. And I'm going to start a timer because I really want to be mindful of the time. So if you want to switch, Carol, to the next slide. And there's 3 pieces of information that I gave you in your handouts, and it was the charts, because I anticipated that the charts would be hard to read from your seats. This presentation is going to look at what we did last year, so in FY14, what we're doing this year, and then a look ahead to FY16. So in FY14, there was a total of 151 children enrolled in public pre-K. We utilized 12 partners. The 3 partners on the chart on the left, the 3 first partners, sometimes you ask how many of the children are in family child care homes. Those are the family child care homes, and the rest of the people on the list, those providers are licensed centers. All 5 towns are represented, and you can see the number of children that were enrolled by town and the percent of those children based on the total number. Okay.
I want to make sure it's actually doing it though.
These are the funding sources that we used last year to support the program. All of the towns of Bennington, Pownell, Woodford had VCPC grants. We utilized IEP Medicaid funds. We used local funds. We used funds from the SVSU Early Education Program, and we used title funds. Most of the funding sources that were flowing through directly from your budgets or through your VCPC grants went directly to the services for the children that you enrolled from your towns. So they would only pay for expenses that your town incurred. The funds like IEP Medicaid, the SVSU Early Education Program, and the Title I grants, those flowed through the SVSU to the early childhood programs to support services that we provide to each town, and we spread them to each town. And that provides efficiencies and effectiveness, and it allows us to avoid the duplication of services across the towns. What we don't want to do is set up pre-K projects in Bennington, Pownell, Woodford, North Bennington, and Shasberry and do the work 5 times. So we want to do it under the umbrella of one to make sure it's efficient and filter it down to you at your individual level. We also want to make sure that we have documentation of spending this money. What impact is it having on the students? So I want to share a little bit of information about the impact last year on this from a student point of view. We do assessments, and you know, some people might say, because you're so used to hearing of NECAP and MAP and all of that, what the heck do you do with 3-year-old children and 4-year-old children, actually 4-year-old children for the purpose of this? Our assessment is based on play and observations. We embed our lessons into the curriculum. It's ongoing, it's very, very natural, and the teachers are doing observations on a real regular basis. Those observations get entered into an assessment system, which is on the next slide, which we'll show you. It's called Teaching Strategies Gold. And Teaching Strategies Gold is aligned to the Common Core, and it's aligned to the early learning standards in Vermont. And we do this assessment 3 times a year, so we do it within the first 6 or so weeks of school. We do it in February, and then we do it again in June. If you start up at the top where it says collect facts, that's really the observations. Then go to your right, analyzing and responding. The teachers are looking at those observations and they're saying, what do I know about these children? What do I have to do different to make sure that they make the progress that they need to in order to achieve as much as they're able to? We implement those strategies. You go down to the evaluation bubble. We again take a look and see where the children are. We will adjust if necessary and differentiate and individualize, and then we go up to the purple bubble, which is summarizing, planning, and communicating. So we're summarizing all of the information, we're continuing to plan, and all of the time we're communicating with team members, and we're also communicating with parents. And we go back up to the cycle again. It's a continuous cycle. The results have been fabulous. And I gave you this chart if you want to look at it closer. This is last year, and you can see our fall data on the left and our spring data on the right. There are 6 areas that we do the evaluation in. Social emotional development, physical development, which is motor skills, language development, cognition or thinking skills, literacy skills, and math skills. The data that we take gives us an opportunity to see if children are meeting the standard, or below the standard, meeting the standard, or the children are exceeding the standard. So you can take a look, and let's just look at the social emotional. And if you look at fall, we had 48.8% of the children, and the number of children that are in this report is 125. We could not, for some reason, pull in the last 25 children, even though the Agency of Ed and the people owning this assessment tool tried to assist us. So we're working on that information for next year. The company is actually working on it. But if you look, you see that 48.8 children were below. And if you look at the spring, which was after a good year of intervention or several months of intervention, 14.4 children were below. So that's a really nice change in that number. If you look at the children meeting, it's 50.4. And if you look at the number meeting in the spring, it's 61.6. But then look at exceeding in the fall, you had 0.8. And when you look at exceeding in the spring, it's 24. And you can see that trend all the way through all of the areas. The children have responded very, very well to the interventions that the staff are doing with them. And they're responding to the instruction and the educational program that we're providing for them. Does this mean that every child is making that rate of progress? No, this is the average. But it does say that on the average, this is what is going, this is the picture that is happening. We're very pleased with that. We take the work that we do seriously with the students, and it's very helpful for us to see this kind of information. This is, like I said, this is 125, so we're missing 26 children. But this, I also have the report data for every single partner. So I can look at every single partner, and I can look at the students in every single partner's who is attending every single partner's facility, and I can look to see what their data shows. So what that says, and I have been able to see where our strengths are, and I can see where we need a little bit more professional development, and that's something that we've already started this year, providing professional development in the areas that are a little bit more of a hot spot for some people, that the staff needs a little bit more support. So, I'm going to move on, and then we can do questions at the end, and if I'm rushing, we can go back to anything you would like. I should say that the Teaching Strategies Gold assessment is a state-required assessment. We did not choose it, although I was part of the committee that did choose it and recommend it as a statewide assessment. It is one that's required through Act 62 and Act 166. So let's look at FY15. So again, this does not include the 3-year-olds or the preschoolers with disabilities. This is totally our 4-year-old population. This year, we're staying pretty much the same as we did in 14. There's 152 children enrolled. We have 10 partners. 2 of the family home child care that we had used, one of the family home child cares did not participate this year. So the top 2 people are family home child care, the remainder are centers. And the 5 towns, you'll see the disbursement of the numbers this time around. But it shows the percentage according to the 152 that we have. Carol, do you want to switch to? In the pre-K funding is pretty much the same. The only exception is Bennington's VCPC grant ended last year, so that's not included. But all the other funds remain. So in Bennington, the local budgets, the local funds picked up the portion that the VCPC grant had paid for in the previous years. We're going to continue with our Teaching Strategies Gold assessment, and because again, that's mandatory, and also because it gives us really good information about the children. The teachers, when they're collecting their observations, they're not only writing it down, but they're taking photos and they're also taking videos. So they share that with parents at parent conference time. We're adding a second assessment, and it's called the Devereaux, or the DECA P2, which is just what it says, the Early Childhood Assessment for the preschoolers. And the reason why we're adding the Devereaux is because of the social emotional development of children. And we have been really studying the effects of trauma and social emotional development on children's future success and student achievement. And this organization called the Devereaux has been around since 1912. And it's the nation's leading provider of behavioral health services. And they've done a lot of research. And in their research, they have found that there's 3 factors that are really critical for children in their social emotional competency to gain early in their life in the preschool years that will help them be academically successful. And the 3 that they have identified that we're going to be assessing through this Devereaux are initiative, and I just put words to define it, self-regulation, and attachment and relationships. So we're going to be looking at 38 different behaviors in our assessment, and we're going to be assessing the children 3 times a year. The parents will also be participating in that. Another portion of the Devereaux is having the teachers look at their teaching style, their classroom environment, and assisting with children to really learn resiliency, initiative, self-regulation, and attachment so that we can help them as they move on into kindergarten. So we will have that information for you next year after we've had an opportunity to use the Devereaux and collect more specific information. As you saw in the TS Gold when you looked at the chart, that is already looked at. But this is going to be 38 more items to look at in that area. One of the things we hear often in the schools is the children with complex behaviors or acting out behaviors disrupt education. So we really want to take a look at it at the preschool level. So that's what we're planning to do. So what's on the horizon for FY16? There's a lot converging. for us in the field. We're going to be getting new childcare licensing regulations, and that does say for licensed centers. Those are going to be coming. We already have regulations, but they're being updated. The early learning standards that we're using for preschool are now going to extend down to birth and up to grade 3. So those are all being adjusted and aligned with the Common Core. There's going to be some pre-K to grade 3 pilots across the state, looking at the continuum to help the children so at grade 3 they're not dropping off and starting to have academic difficulties. There's going to be a statewide implementation, which is currently going on now. Remember, Vermont got the Race to the Top Early Learning Challenge grant of $37 point whatever million. They're really rolling that out now fast and furiously. A lot of activities are coming down the pike that we're finding out about and able to participate in. And of course, you've heard about the universal public pre-K for 3-4. And for 5-year-olds who aren't enrolled in kindergarten, and people, that's an important piece to remember that is in the law. And then the last thing is the potential pre-K expansion grant, which you have heard Jim talk about, and I think Jim's going to talk about that or expand on it again. I wasn't quite sure where
During my, I'll do it.
you'll do it during your.
Yep.
So
Thank you.
there is a lot going on. And there's my timer. But there's a lot going on in early childhood. If anybody, I know Jim, you had raised your hand. You might have had a question. I guess it's up to Fran about questions.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, is there any dropout factor so far this year in this program?
Drop out?
Drop from those that have been enrolled in, if they pulled out?
Not that I'm aware of.
So all,
Well, they would go, so the children from 14, the first year, they're in kindergarten this year. And all of the children that we have now, other than one child moving, I have not heard of anybody leaving. Why, have you heard that some people, okay.
no, just general
All right,
question.
I wondered if there's something I needed to know.
I think probably just the opposite happens once we get rolling and kids are starting to come to preschool, and their families hear about it and our enrollment goes up.
And we actually have families now that are asking, but we can't provide them with the 35 weeks because there aren't 35 weeks left in instruction, and that's what the law says, is they need 35 weeks of instruction. So we've had to say, I'm sorry, no. We will bring them in, but they won't get counted because they can't get counted in our student census count if we, where we have openings.
Jim, I think Jim had his hand up first.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
The chart you had on the spring testing, the fall testing and spring testing. So 4-year-olds are 20% older in the spring. So my question is it the same standard in the spring and the fall, the same test? Or the same?
It's the same evaluation tool, but there's multiple.
Is the spring harder than the fall because they're much older?
Yes, and the, when they,
Correct me for getting older.
no, but it's a good question. There's 7 different ways to grade any one response on the one objective, and the objectives change. So you're not only, you're going this way, you're going up, and you're going out. So you're adding depth and you're adding breadth to your response, and the report that was done takes into consider maturation. So there's set points for meeting and exceeding and not meeting the standards in spring and fall that are different than the set points that the company has set for fall, for spring.
Another quick question. RTE,
Race to the Top Early Learning Challenge Grant.
that's $35 million altogether per year?
No, over 4 or 5. It's the entire state.
How much do you get?
We don't get any.
You got it,
The Race to the Top Early Learning Challenge Grant is really to develop systems across the state and strengthen systems. It's not a direct money to the school districts.
Okay, Ray, do you have a question?
Yep. I'm just trying to sort out whether I have something different from Jim. I guess what my question would be, is there, you could say that this is pretty, you could expect a lot of this progress with just participating in the programs as they were, and the maturation of the child. Those would be two different things. And do we actually have, does the state do an analysis where they attempt to, perhaps through the differentials that are experienced at different centers, figure out what is the value added aspect of this program as opposed to what would happen anyway, just being in a program, the program that existed at the center that they were in before?
It's a great question. I don't, the state does not do that kind of evaluation of the data. The reason why we have it is we ask the state for it. I don't know what mechanism you would use to determine the changes in the center. I would like to be able to say that, first of all, we know it's not maturation because the set points are there.
Yeah.
As far as the participation, we've never done assessments like this before, so we don't know where children are. We can only take them from where they are when they enter and look at where they are midstream and at the end. We would hope that it's because they're in these high-quality environments getting instruction in all different areas of development.
Right. You would think there would be some impact of that, but
We would, I mean, we're seeing the impact. We see it visually and we're seeing it on paper. We see the children come in on day one. We've had the experience, our program has been in session for 4 weeks, and it's just in 4 weeks period of time to watch the changes from children who have not been in any kind of group setting to a group setting now, and seeing them be able to follow directions and be part of a group. Are precursors certainly to any of the academic kinds of things that we're also looking at.
Yeah, but my question was, you would see some of that, maybe much of it, if they were in a group just run by one of these centers before they encountered this
Perhaps.
program.
Perhaps.
And if you're to justify the expense of the program, you kind of need to prove, or at least give strong evidence, that there is a value added from this sort of additional intervention in the preschool system that these kids participate in anyway. Or the alternative, of course, which is increasingly difficult for many folks, is staying home. But so, you know, I've asked this before, so it's not a new question to you for me, but it seems to me that we're I think we're doing a good job from what I know about what's going on there, but I think that the hard-nosed taxpayer would want to know that these dollars are actually having impacts that you wouldn't get otherwise without spending them. So,
Leon and Davis.
My question is along the same track. I guess we was all thinking, and I guess I can ask that a different way. In terms of the fall, the spring, in terms of it, and I think you might have said it, that this is new data. You don't have it. In order to be able to show the progress of the program from spring to fall or fall to fall, we'll need to have a repetition of a year to say that I had spring last year and these same spring kids coming in is doing this, and before we either put the program, and then fall, because you got some natural growth and that in terms of maturity and all that stuff taking place, that we would expect fall to fall growth to be seen in terms of a program intervention to take the place. And I don't know whether you got that data or that data exists from previous years. This is last year's data, is that right? and it's not stuff from the previous year there.
We did for North Bennington and Shaftesbury, we did a presentation at their request of the data the year previous, and, Larry, you can chime in, but I'm pretty sure we didn't present it quite in the right way, but the data that we showed the same profile.
Yep.
Would
I
you
remember
agree,
the
Larry?
presentation.
The one at Shaftesbury, and I know we did one. I have to say again, the set points for this from fall to spring take into account maturation. They take that out. So what they're saying is this is a measurement of response to instruction. I hear you, what you're saying about fall to fall. We'll have fall data next fall. Last year, we didn't have access. We don't own all of the subscriptions to TS Gold, and so the ones that we own, we can go in there, and Carol and I can take a look, and we can look at it every single day and see what the teachers are putting in, and we can run reports every single day if we wanted to. But you have to remember that we have people that we don't own the subscription, so the only way that I can get the full data picture is by asking the state to run a report for me of all of our partners. Now, all of our partners have to enter into these subscriptions annually, and they have to check that the children are part of SVSU's pre-K program. And then when the state does the filter, then they pick up all of the children who have been registered that way. So I have to rely on the state to give me this. It's not a usual report that comes out, but the state was willing to write it, to do it for me.
Go ahead,
Quick
Lynn.
follow-up, does the state have a report where they give a robust justification for the pre-K emphasis that they're
They have to report
producing?
to the legislature every year, and I have to be honest, I have not read the last report to the legislature about this, but I certainly could get a copy of it.
Yeah, I'd be interested.
I would just make kind of an observation comment here in that I think we have to acknowledge that there are some children, due to the quality of their home life, plus their own nature, if you will, and not necessarily intelligence, who will exceed, and maybe in these numbers that we are seeing here of going forward may indeed be those children who now being put in a more social environment scoot up, okay. However, and these kids do fine if they didn't get any formal education until they hit kindergarten. They do fine. However, I think what we have to realize is the value of this type of program to the children who, due to their own character, maybe super shy or what have you, due to their home life where there is not the emphasis on, say, reading and so on, really need this to help them get in the groove. And so, we really can't separate these groups. One will do fine even if we didn't have them in this sort of program. But if we can pick up some of our children, if we can spot some of those early on that have some problems that need to be addressed, and get a head start on these kids, then I'd say that's wonderful. Plus the fact that a social group where the children who are less likely to go ahead on their own have the association with those that are initiative and pushing forward, they will kind of, with the peer atmosphere, actually will do better in this group setting. So all in all, can we say this is helping every child? It probably is not, because some will help themselves. But I think certainly from catching these children who need this extra help early on, hopefully will make a big difference when we get to kindergarten, first, second, third, which is where we really need to have that. So, thoughts on the subject?
Okay. Dick, did you have anything?
Well, I was going to ask if next year, I guess, it's my understanding that 3-year-olds will be included in this program and attached to that. How does it deal with special needs of the same age group, or does it not?
Children with disabilities are also in programs. They also participate in this TS Gold assessment and other assessments as well. We just did not include them because we wanted it to be a pre-K discussion rather than an early childhood department discussion. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Anybody else? Dave?
The question is about funding. Listed 4 or 5 different funding sources there.
Do you want to go back to the slide, Carol?
So, whatever costs are not covered by these funds have to be made up for in our budgets.
Look,
Is that correct?
Right. That's the local funds piece is your,
The local funds will be our piece. So what percentage of the total approximately comes from local funds?
I didn't bring my pie chart, do you know off the top of your head?
You know, within 10%. We're talking about half of it or?
I think a third. It's,
Top of my head, I'd say.
I could probably figure it out while I'm sitting over there.
Top of my head, I would think a third. But
Diff-
that's going to increase
The
as we
top-
go forward.
The top grants are going to phase out.
Those 2 grants are going to phase out with the implementation of the entitlement for pre-K and FY16. Title I funds are going to be significantly reduced. Medicaid dollars are going away for a whole host of reasons. So it's going to be largely borne by the local districts.
And the cost per child, per student, the 10-hour-a-week program, the cost over a year is several $1,000s typically?
This, for next year, or for this year, we will be paying $2,800 per child if they meet the, if the facility is already qualified on their own. If we have to support the facility by having a licensed teacher there, then we do some in-kind services by providing our teachers so that they can be a partner, and then we give some tuition support to the family as well, but it's not at the same, 2,800 total.
No, I don't think you understood the question.
All right, ask it again, Jim.
The tuition, well, it was actually Dave's question. I mean, the $2,800 is the tuition we pay for kids that are not being served in our system.
Right,
I think the question.
for 10 hours for 35 weeks.
I think the question is, what's the cost per pupil? And, you know, we have to include your 353 budget and all that stuff in there. So I don't have that answer for you today. And part of the difficulty is we have to go through this exercise for FY16 budget because of the entitlement that's now got on the table. Karen's, what we call the 353 budget, or her early childhood budget, is intertwined with both some pre-K stuff and a lot of early ed stuff.
Meaning AAA.
And I think this is going to speak to Dick's question as well. And there's a lot of questions that are still on the table in regards to this pre-K entitlement that's taken place. And many questions that I have is, how do the special needs get funded? And are they going to continue to be funded in a straight block grant, has been the case? Or because they've now created this 10-hour entitlement that I think, and I'm not a teacher, but Karen can kick me or correct me if I'm wrong, those services that we have to push in to the classroom to serve those kids during those 10 hours, to me, look very similar to what I push into a 5th grade or a 6th grade or a 12th grade. So those should be part of the reimbursement formula that comes from the state of Vermont and the federal government in the form of sped services. They haven't figured any of this out yet. We're just asking questions and nobody has any answers.
So, and I didn't mean to go beyond the scope of the fourth grade numbers we were just talking about, but I just wanted to get a sense that it sounds like this year anyway, if it's roughly a third of $2,800 is in the $1,000 range or less than $1,000, local funding can cover a third.
Yeah, I'd prefer to get back to you on that number, to give you a real number.
Yeah.
Just about finding out, it's about $400,000 for 150 students, 152 times 26, so, there was no more.
And it also
I think it's $75 a week.
It also depends, like if you were talking about Bennington last year or the year before, they got substantial grant money because they had such a large number of children that they were serving. So one year they got $135,000 in grant money, and the next year got $90,000 in grant money. So it depends upon each town depends upon the amount of revenue, personal revenue, not personal, but other revenue coming into their district to support the project, and then what's left over ends up being local funds. So Shaftesbury this year, you're covering much of your student cost through your local funds, but you have IEP, Medicaid, Title I, and SVSU Early Ed program funds helping with pieces like contracted services, travel, materials, supplies, my time, Carol's time, to do oversight, coordination, supervision. So some of it comes out of the SVSU to make it happen, and some of it comes out of your towns. And we try to keep the town money for tuition money or licensed teacher money to have it be that direct service in the preschool. And the SVSU funds have covered like what we call umbrella services. The umbrella services are more efficient because then Shaftesbury's not having to devise a system to do your own pre-K services, or Pownell or any of the other towns.
At what point?
I'm a parent, okay? I need daycare for my children. Now, Grandma will take care of my children for me, very reasonable price. What is the financial incentive to send my children into one of these programs?
There is, it's always family choice about what makes sense for a family. Families are not required to participate. We are required to provide it next year. As Rick said, it's an entitlement next year. This year we've chosen as boards. So it's really a family choice about what they do. If a family chooses to go into a center and the center is a qualified center independently on their own, so remember that's a licensed teacher, stars, rating, assessment, et cetera, then the school district will pay $2,800 of their tuition bill for the child to go to that place. I do know families that have stay-at-home moms who have their children go to a social setting 10 hours a week and pay very little because they're able to take advantage of public pre-K for their child. They want them to have social experiences before they go to school. So there is some financial support. I know other families who have reported that they only sent their child to preschool for 20 hours a week because that's all they could afford, but then when they could get support for public pre-K, then they could extend their hours, and the parent actually went and was able to get a job. So,
Okay.
I mean, there's different benefits, but it's all on an individual by individual basis.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Everybody all set with that one? Okay. Let's move on to, thank you,
You're welcome.
Karen. Appreciate it. Go to finance. And if you look on 11C, we got to bring that up to 3C. That should be in the finance area instead of down on FYI. So, we got the treasurer's report. Everybody's looked at that. Any questions, Jim?
We went back to, I don't know if I'm reading from, between July and end of September, to $1 million, drugs and alcohol, or 4 drugs and alcohol. That's huge. And that, what jury is that for? State of Vermont Alcohol and Drug Title I, 374 and 703, so $1 million in 3 months. What's that for now? When do we get it again?
No, it's, you receive 374 in the month of September, and total from July through the end of September is 703. Don't add them together.
Okay,
But
so,
it's still $700,000.
so we're getting about $300,000 a month?
It's not going to be each and every month.
That's my question. It just seems like a big number. So on the subject of alcohol and drugs.
But
It's also Title I.
it's also Title I. Those are two separate things. This is money from the state of Vermont. The alcohol and drug is a very small number in this. The majority of this is Title I.
Yep.
Title I dollars.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, need a motion to accept the treasurer's report? So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Unanimous. Okay. Award maintenance contract for Division Street.
Yeah, so, as everyone knows, we're leasing the facility from the hospital, a very favorable lease. We obviously need to maintain the facility. It's an SVSU facility. SVSU doesn't have maintenance staff. This is for the grounds maintenance. We went out for a competitive bid. Didn't get a whole lot of interest that you see. It's a difficult property. There's very little summer work, a lot of fall leaf cleanup, and a lot of snow removal, and a lot of hand snow removal for sidewalks and stuff that need to be cleared. We did get one bid from a qualified local contractor, and we're requesting that you award that to Dwyer Four Seasons.
So moved. Leon and George second.
And I should just comment for those in the public
Yep.
on TV that this came in under budget, so we're clearly well within our budgeted number for that item.
Okay. Dave? Oh, okay. All in favor? Okay, it is unanimous. Thank you. Okay, and the MAUHS kitchen renovation project?
Yeah, and as most of you know, the food service program is run at the SVSU level, and we've been doing a lot of kitchen upgrades throughout all the buildings for the last 5 or 6 years or so. We purposely left the Mount Anthony project to last because we knew that it was going to be an expensive project. Most all the other kitchens are up to speed now, with the exception of replacing things that break. We had a very successful year last year and ended up with a fund balance that's going to be in excess of $80,000. So we are flush with some cash. We're required by the federal program to put that money back into the program. And like I said, we've done that throughout the district with other equipment. We've also done that with improving food quality. So this is to finish up our major projects and move forward.
Okay.
Move we accept the low bid.
Leon, make the motion, George seconded. Dave?
I did have a question, was that?
Yeah, okay.
What you talked about this whole registry, right? The surplus that we need to spend on food service related costs, has that been accumulating over a period of years, or was that mostly last year?
No, this was some small numbers have been accumulating, but we've been kind of spending them down. because we're required to put into the program. There's not a guideline to say you have to be at 0 or see, but I don't want to show a whole lot of money because it really is for the program. No, we had a very successful year last year, and our fund balance just for last year was in the range of about $80,000. It's not a final number because I haven't finished the final audit yet. Auditors are currently working on that now, but it was a very successful year.
Year where, in another year, we accumulate a surplus and don't have a big project to spend it on, we can hang on to that, it doesn't go back into the general.
It has to go into the food service program, and we're gonna have to find, make better, I mean, if we don't need more equipment, which I don't think we will, there'll probably be some breakdowns, obviously, here and there, and have to do some repairs. But we're just gonna be bringing up the quality of the program and the food and, buying better meats and cheeses and whatever because we have to spend it on the program.
Been a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay. New business. Is there any new business? No. Okay, moving on. Personnel. Personnel committee met last week, and we will be talking about some of that in the executive session at the end. So, consent agenda. We got the minutes. Anything on the minutes? We have the warrant. Okay. Resignations. There's none. Retirements, none. Leave of absence. Yep, one. And we have nominations. Good. Go ahead.
I'm going to be politely persistent on this subject until I see what I want. So we have, without mentioning names, there are 2 nomination forms. One is for $43,000 a year with some detail, and the other is for $12.57 per hour. And I think as a director, we need to have it expressed uniformly, all right? Let's pick some metric, and every nomination has to boil down to the same metric. Here we have a $44,000 job and a $12.57. And multiplying out what I can see here, that's about a $23,000 job at $12.57, and it's $43,000. So I just think you need to be able to look at these things in a glance from a financial standpoint and see this is $40,000 plus benefits, and this is $20,000, I think, plus benefits. So, I would just like to see a normalized metric whether it's
These are
the job is the budgetary, the fiscal year impact of this nomination.
These are
No issue with nominations, just expression.
they're both contract positions, 2 different contracts. One is the teacher's contract that does use an annual salary figure, and the other is the paraeducator contract that does use an hourly rate. So it would be different. If I understand your question correctly, you would like to see so we wouldn't give you an hourly breakdown on the teacher one because the contract doesn't work that way. And we do tell you how many hours per day. And we know how many days it is because of the school year set. So, I mean, you want to see the math on this form of what that comes out to for the...
We're really concerned about the budgetary impact.
Right.
This is a $40,000 impact and $20,000 impact. The details, you don't care about. That's all. Just so we know the magnitude of what we're holding.
As far as for budgetary impact, we do have that total figure when we're building the budget, so we don't build the budget by an hourly wage. But
Okay. Anybody else? Any questions?
I'll make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor of the motion? Okay, unanimous. Thank you. Okay, policies, Leon, there's no policies.
No, we didn't have any coming this week. It's on in the works, though.
I'm sure there is. Okay. We go to superintendent's report if nobody has any other questions. Okay, Jim, you're up.
Good evening. As I reviewed my notes from the last meeting, there were a couple of questions on one of the warrants from last month, and you had requested that I send that out, but I just wanted to inform you of a dynamic that is going on. This is a broadcast, people watch from home, so I did receive some emails asking that whatever I send out to you, I also send to them. So I made the decision that rather than send it out to you, since the question was asked at a public meeting, I will report the answer back at a public meeting, and that way that'll be fair to everyone that's involved, since I also got requests from the public for that same information. One of the questions was, what was a $125 item for the SVSU Hot Lunch Program? It was actually $1.25 coupons for classroom incentives for the On Point program. That's what that was. So they used that as part of their behavior management program for the On Point program. So that's what that was. Then you asked for a breakdown of legal services, and Rick helped me provide this information. So on that particular voucher, it was voucher 2004, for legal services was the question. And it is over $18,000 of total billings from our service for services from June 2nd, 14 to June 6th, 14. And without going into real details of what they were for by case, some of the things our attorney was dealing with is dealing with a wrongful discharge case from the Attorney General, an arbitration case that is ongoing here in the supervisory union, reviewing a contract with a vendor. The largest item was for personnel contract renovations, particularly around 4 administrators, including my contract. And you had some other administrators whose contracts are renewing, so that is where the bulk. There was over $6,000 in attorney fees for the generation of those contracts. Consulting with special education services was also on there, and you also have an ongoing suit going on with the district, and that is where the bulk of that spending was, with a small amount for miscellaneous and teacher negotiations, because those really haven't started yet. So I don't know if that, and I think it was Larry, you specifically, if that's enough detail for where that is. So I do, as those monthly bills come in, I do review them now and go through them and see where those services went. And I hope that answers that part for you, both of those questions. Yeah.
Jim,
Yeah.
I'm concerned about the amount of money we spend legally.
Mm-hmm.
And so the question I've got is this. If there's a question in the district, who then has the approval to call the lawyer and run up the legal bill? That's the question. That's number one.
Right. I'm going to say that now lies with the superintendent, that before anyone contacts the school's attorney, the superintendent should be consulted to give that approval, and that's the process we're starting to work with.
Or is that the process that's being used now?
Yeah, I can't comment on what was before, but
No.
yeah, that's the process that I have laid out how I want that to work. Now, there are some administrators who, when I say get permission, I might just get an email from, say, our special ed director and say, I got an issue with an IEP that I need to consult with the attorney, and then I'll say, go ahead and do it. And I've also had board members, some of you here tonight, who will give me the courtesy of letting me know and asking if it's all right if they go forward and contact our attorney. So I think that process is in place. you and I have talked about this outside of the meeting. Yeah, it is a concern, but it really should be directed from one area. I should know when, I feel as superintendent, I should know when our attorney is being contacted.
So the board is assured that these are all going to be cleared by you?
The board chair should be clear.
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Should be board chair.
Well-
Does the attorney know that?
I have had that discussion with him, yes. So I can't sit here tonight and tell you that in my short tenure already that I am 100% assured that it is happening every time, but hearing your concern, I will double that effort and make sure that that is understood by everyone.
Thank you.
I would second the concern.
Yeah. So that cleared, a couple other matters from last month. You had asked for a report on the Common Core. The question was, what is it? We decided, because Karen's presentation was already there, you're going to get a presentation at your November board meeting on the Common Core and what it is, so that presentation will happen at the November board meeting. We gave a brief presentation this morning at the joint board meeting with school committee chairs and select board members, because they have that same question. And the other concern that we heard from you is, is there help for parents coming for understanding the new curriculum? We've heard a lot of concerns from board meetings, particularly about our math curriculum and difficulty helping them with homework. At our most recent professional development day, which was this Monday, system-wide professional development day, that is one of the things that is being worked on, particularly in the math about, and Pownell is beginning with, they're going to have parents' community math nights. Those are going to be scheduled, and we're going to also work on a handout that can go out with parents, because we're hearing that concern. And I personally can relate to that I would like, if I was that parent with a child that age and I'm having a new math curriculum rolled out, I'd appreciate that help also. So we've heard that, and we're dealing with that. A couple other things that's been going on. I'm going to piggyback on Karen's presentation. You've heard me talk about the expanded pre-K grant that is the state of Vermont is going for. At your last month's meeting, I told you I was reluctant to sign the memorandum of understanding for that for two reasons. One, when I read the memorandum, I could not see that there was any opt-out if the boards did not approve it, even though verbally they said it wouldn't be a problem. And the second was they hadn't completed the scope of work, and I was very reluctant to sign a memorandum of understanding when we didn't really know what the expectations were. So I did attend, along with Karen, I attended a federal grants workshop up in Barry, and they told us they would make the corrections, and we got a new draft of the memorandum of understanding. Bold print in the top now has the line that, that we can withdraw from it if the boards do not give their approval, because you heard in Karen's presentation, they don't know everything about this grant and how it's going to play out and what it's going to look like, and so we can't be expected to, and I'm not comfortable presenting to the board yet until we have all that information about what this grant is going to look like and what impact it's going to have on all our districts financially. So I did go ahead and sign the memorandum of understanding, and but all we're committed to at this point is that we're interested. In my opinion, I did not want to place us in a position of saying no so early in the process when so much good could potentially come out of it. So I wasn't ready to close that door, but we will keep informed as we know more, and it's all going to come down to whether the state actually gets the grant to begin with. Along with Joy Cox, our human resource manager, I want to tell you that one thing that we are doing, we're conducting monthly meetings with the Teachers Association in my office after school, and so far I'm finding those very helpful. We meet with them when grievances are filed or when we go to negotiations, and I'm not saying those are necessarily tense meetings. We try to communicate in a civil way. But I think it's important that we get together when there isn't a specific issue and we come together in general. So far, I find that those are working well. I did mention that it was a full day of professional development on Monday. A couple of comments I heard back from the teachers were they really appreciated the collaborative time that they were able to get from that day. I was talking to one fourth grade teacher at one of our smaller elementary schools. I'll use her as an example. And she said she found it to be a wonderful day, that the fact that she got to meet with all fourth grade teachers when she just has one other fourth grade teacher in her building, which makes it difficult for her from a curriculum point of view. She can collaborate with people within her own building, but there's only one other fourth grade teacher, so this really makes it, they really found it a useful benefit day. The other comment I heard is we need more time like this. I spent most of the day here at the middle school touring the different workshops that were going on. I spent some time with the 7th and 8th grade math teachers, and I am convinced that there are some really positive things going on and moving forward, and you should know that. In keeping with our opening day theme, and that we want to stress the positive, we have been featuring each time we get together something good that is going on at one of our schools. So on Monday we featured the bookmobile from Pownell Elementary School, and because I first saw that at your Pownell board meeting, very impressed with the lugging of totes around in vans and pickup trucks during the summer. So we wanted everyone to hear that, and we got some very positive comments, so that very good reception from that. And I commend your director of curriculum instruction assessment, Laura Boudreau, who did the bulk of organizing for that day, along with the professional development committee. So I was very proud of what they accomplished on that day. Next week, I don't know how many of you are going to Lake Maury. I will be there on Thursday and Friday for the joint VSA-VSBA meeting. And if you haven't, I believe it's still not too late if you are interested in going, so you can let us know on that. I'll be going out there Thursday morning. Some of you know this, some of you don't know, but teacher negotiations have begun. If you're involved in it, you might know. We had the administrators and the negotiating team from the school boards have been meeting regularly, a series of meetings to start to develop what the packet would be that we might put forward before the teachers. We had our first face-to-face with the Teachers Association on Monday afternoon, and I think it went very well. As far as, of course, when you meet in the beginning, it's really setting up the schedule and ground rules, and that has been accomplished. I did attend a community forum on autism, and I did find it an eye-opener for me. I spoke with both Wendy Pierce and I've spoken to Karen about I really was overwhelmed by what I was hearing and the extent of the issue here in Bennington and elsewhere. And I have nothing more to offer this time other than I listened, and I will listen to our experts here for what that advice is, and I want to make sure that the school districts are part of that discussion. What else I wanted to tell you? We have been. This is an interesting. Some of you that attended the regional school board meeting in Manchester last month, and the Secretary of Education spoke. You heard about their concern about the number of paraeducators in the state of Vermont. What they said that night was that Vermont and New Hampshire have the highest ratio of paraeducators to students in the country. The state of Vermont has contracted with the Donahue Institute out of UMass Amherst to conduct a study of the use of paraeducators in Vermont, and we have recently been contacted and informed of what that memorandum of understanding is, and we will be participating in that survey. It's one of those voluntary but mandatory, so just to let you know that that's on the horizon. And that's pretty much what I have for tonight, Mr. Chairperson, unless there's any questions.
Anybody?
Thank you.
Okay. The only thing I was going to mention is the negotiations, that's fine, we've done that. We're going to start meeting with the SVSU Finance Committee. The members on that are George Sleeman from BSD, Dave Durfee, MAU, Cindy Brownell Powell, Larry Johnson Shasberry, Woodford is Avis, and North Bennington's Ray Molyneux, and I'll be representing SVSU.
Whoa, what have you put me on?
The SVSU Finance Committee?
I just said the same thing.
You don't have to. I mean, if you choose not to, that's fine.
Well, we'll take a go at it. I did it last year. We'll take a go at it.
Okay, I think that's why you're on it, because you did it last year. Okay. If you don't want to, Avis, if it's, the meeting's going to be from 3:30 to 5:30. Just so you know.
And when are they going to start?
It's going to be November 6th, 13th, and the 20th. We're going to try to do it in 3 meetings.
That's not going to work for me. I'm sorry.
Okay. So I need to get, if you can't do that, that's fine. Anybody else on Dick?
November 6th, 13th, and what?
20th.
Delighted.
Delighted.
Are we going to put the budget to bed in 3 meetings?
No, they're Thursdays.
And the time would not be good for Mark.
Thursdays,
I don't believe.
Oh, it's Thursdays?
They're Thursdays, yeah.
Aren't they Thursdays?
Yes,
That's
6,
what I thought.
13, and 20.
Okay, sorry.
I think they're Thursdays.
Okay,
Yeah.
I know the 20th is anyway.
all right.
It's open to all members.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is, yeah.
They're public
So
meetings.
Avis could still come if she chooses to.
And where,
But- Okay, so that's.
where is it being
Central.
held?
Central office.
All right,
And it should be, Rick, it's going to be in your office?
It'll be in a conference room.
Conference room,
Okay.
okay.
Might be a little
Say we
tight in
wouldn't
his
all
office.
fit in your office, would we?
No.
I'm hospitable.
Okay. That's basically all I have.
Yeah.
If you're FYI, you got the student enrollment, you got your budget status report. And I need a motion to, unless there's any questions on that, need a motion to go into executive session. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Are we coming back for action here? What are we going for?
Possibly.
Personnel or what we?
Personnel contracts.
You make